never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Helps if I put myself up like that. God, fat finger disease on the clicker today, I can tell you. How are you, folks? Hope you're having a bloody good Friday. It is at the end of the week. A pretty miserable one in my part of the world. I trust it's a little bit better weather where you are, but it's bloody wet, slippery, muddy, messy, sort of weather around here, and I think we're expecting more of it. Queensland, beautiful one day. Yeah. Just having a bit of a look through the chat. What the first in tonight? Good to have you in, mate. Hey all, and Macca following that one up. Avcam, is that the way to say it? Spazza, good to have you in, brother, and keep listening. Might be something in this for you tonight. Thank you, Whattha, for the comment about the crackheads on the train. Connie, Alan must be home. Nice to have you home, mate. Good to be home, I bet. Pity the weather isn't better. I hope you both are terribly well. DM, Margot, Clayton, the big fella, is in the house. I hope you are doing well, brother. You were on my mind today, in a very blokey kind of way. We have to catch up, so I was just trying to think when we're going to do that, so I'll be in touch. The lovely Donna is in the house. Hope you are doing well, my love. Tony, I hope are you still on the road or are you back home? I'm not quite sure whether you're still traveling or not. The lovely Maria, Dave O, and Ads. Also, the Waving Wonder isn't joining us tonight because, due to his excessive work habits and sleeping habits, while he is awake, he hasn't had time to wash his hair yet, or at least the 2 or 3 that stick up, or brush them or do much else. But lovely to have you as part of the show, brother. I'm making it all up. He's been helping another client, so he's been a busy man. Margot and Karen, Jenny, Kirk. I think I started a comment from you somewhere, Kirk, that I saw pop up earlier. You see there's an arrest warrant for Sleazy Albanese. That could be interesting. Well, it depends. I think if you are referring to the International Court, then don't get your hopes up. While they can issue arrest warrants, they have nobody to actually do the arresting. They don't have a police force, and we can't be relying on our current police forces to do much. God knows. They're not going to be helping the people terribly much. So, not fun at all. Now, what they said, we've got to watch something called The Great Taking. It was released a year ago before central bank's gold buying spree. I think that's been going on a little longer than a year. We'll give some insight into what they've planned for us and gives the stackers a bit of hope knowing this. We will talk about that. Not so much that particular thing, the Great Taking, but we will talk about gold, silver, and bullion with Michael very shortly from Ainslie Bullion. In fact, if I get myself sort of sorted, we'll make that happen very quickly. I do want to touch on a couple of things that we will be talking about a little bit later on. I have a stack of images here that will certainly elicit some modicum of interest, I'm sure, out of you. One of them is this pic. Do you know what that is? That is a Geiger counter, and I have received that Geiger counter in the mail from one black sheep in Tasmania. I don't know where he comes up with all these magnificent pieces of electronic wizardry, but this is a fair dinkum, honest to God, plastic Geiger counter. And I'm not dissing it. It works very well. However, I have no idea what it says, how it reads, or how it works. So we will figure out how to get it going. I have it down here beside me. We will figure out. There it is. Oh, can't get it in the light. There you go. We will figure out how to make it work. Well, it does work. What we will figure out is what it actually says. I have been reading up a little bit on what the numbers mean, and I now know that every tick that you hear in a Geiger counter is an indication of a rad. So if you're hearing a lot of ticking, there's a lot of rads. A lot of rads is a bad thing. But aside from that, not really sure. So, yeah, we shall see what goes from there. Now, I also want to talk about a little bit later satanic ritual abuse. Now, I'm particularly interested in hearing from anybody who believes that they may have fallen victim to people who perpetrated satanic ritual abuse on them, and through the Catholic Church. I do have some specific interests in mind and places in mind. I'm looking to find more people in a certain area. However, that doesn't discount your story if you're not in that area. What are we going to do once we hear from you? Well, first of all, we want to hear from you. There may or may not be ways, you may have already found yourself ways for compensation. We might be able to help find those ways for you if you haven't found them already. And there are certain things I can't talk about at this point in time. However, there is an idea of a production to tell those stories, to make people aware, and to help people understand what things like satanic ritual abuse, MK Ultra, and other forms of abuse have been perpetrated on our children, now our middle-aged, if you like, people of this nation. We're not alone. It's happened all over the world. But as many of you know, as many of you have suffered, this seemed to be especially prevalent during the 70s and the 80s. And we are particularly interested in people from the 60s basically through. We're not discounting stories from other times or places, but we are doing this for a reason, and all will become clear in the not too distant future when we can explain to you the production that will follow. In fact, it'll probably be more like two productions. There is one person who already wants to tell their story. That story is going to be quite confronting for many people. That story, and I'm privy to parts of it so far, is horrifying. And in fact, this person has only found two words to describe what they see when they remember these periods. And those two words are abject horror. So I understand for many people, particularly those who've been put through the mill in this regard, this is not something you potentially want to revisit if you've been able to put it aside. Or maybe it is something that you do revisit with therapy and you are getting that help. And we would want this interaction to be beneficial to you in every way. We are here to help you if that's what you require, but also to hear you, because there are so many of you who have not been heard. There are so many of you, and this is part of the evil of SRA, is that it compartmentalizes not only your personalities, it compartmentalizes your relationships with people who have been through the same sorts of trauma. And I understand this isn't a one-upmanship kind of thing. My trauma was worse than your trauma. It's nothing like that. However, if you want to talk about it, and you want to talk about it to a point where you might be able to help others, which is particularly what this person will do. And I think what will happen is this person's story will be the first story we tell. And it's going to be quite a shocking story. If you want to call it a documentary, then call it a documentary, a Voice of Freedom documentary. I'm not going to tell you when it's coming. I'm just telling you that it is coming at some point in the future. I suspect sooner rather than later, but I'm talking months rather than years. We want this to be something that looks and feels like a professional production, and it should do that. But we also want it to be the beginning of something, an educational process, if you like, for those of us that don't fully understand, maybe can't appreciate the sort of damage that many people have had done to them by predominantly people working within the Catholic Church or the Freemason community. So if you are one of those people, I'm very interested in hearing from you. You can email me. Don't do it right now because I don't think Vince will have had time to set the email address up. But survivor at vofhq.com, and put survivor in the subject line as well, please. If you want to send us an email, and if you are prepared to have a talk, off camera, not recorded, not anything like that, and you want to share your part of the story and potentially talk about what we are planning, then I'm very happy to share that information with you. And if it's something you feel you would like to be part of, then we will do that. I haven't got a document ready yet, but I'll try and get that together over the weekend, where it will explain the process of what we're going to attempt to do here by telling your story, by educating those of us who have been fortunate enough to avoid the horrors of SRA or sexual abuse of that nature. And we may or may not be able to help out with professionals who have a great deal of experience in this area. I hope to be able to gain some access to some of the best people in the country to discuss the clinical side of what we're going to be talking about as well. So if anything, this is a fact-finding mission to find out whether or not any of you are watching. If you are, please reach out. I'm going to endeavour to reach out to Fiona Barnett, and there are others. Rachel Vaughan is another who has recently, I think, spoken somewhere else, and if she's prepared, would love to have a conversation with her as well. So it's a very serious subject. It's something we're not going to take lightly in any way, shape, or form. And if the people who perpetrated these horrors on you are still alive and you wish to prosecute them or go down the route of prosecution, then you'll be supported in that role, and in that way as much as humanly possible by me, and I suspect quite a few others who will support this project. That isn't the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to educate people, to make them aware of the horrors that were committed and potentially still are being committed by certain sections of the community. I really do believe that many of those horrors in the last few years have been routed out, but that might just be wishful thinking on my behalf. So, let's not play games about this. It's a very, very serious subject. I am probably not, I am not qualified in any psychiatric or psychologist kind of way to help here. I happen to have a bit of experience in counselling with people, but we'll be aiming to get some professional help in on that. And really my role will be just to have a conversation, help you tell your story. But please, yeah, Jinder Lee, I've been looking today at how to contact Fiona, but I've nothing. I did have a number for her maybe 2 years ago, but that number no longer answers. So I don't have an email address. I don't have anything, so I haven't really thought about it. I was going to have a look into that over the weekend, but if you can help with that, Jinder Lee, that'd be great. Carl@vofhq.com, or send me a text. I think you've got my number. SR. I'm just reading this, and I'm trying to. Okay, been having a dab of Shilgrit Gold with your coffee. I don't know what that is. You feel better for it. Shilgit Gold. I'm going to have to do some kind of a search on that one, my friend, because you've lost me there a little bit. Okay, so I can see in the chat now, Vince has said that he's got the email set up. So survivor@vofhq.com if you would like to be involved in this project. We are very, very, very keen to know. Richie Benno is a name that has been associated with SRA. In fact, there are quite a number of names. I am particularly interested in, well, a few names, but I'm particularly interested in one particular priest out of Canberra who was very active in the 70s. I'm particularly interested in people in Adelaide, also in the 70s and into the 80s. And I'm very interested in people in the Hunter Valley, Newcastle, and Central Coast regions of New South Wales in the 80s. This is because I have people in those areas who've reached out already, and they have some names in, and there is some detail on certain perpetrators. Some of these things have been prosecuted. What we are indeed looking for, those of you who may have not been involved in the investigation of the Royal Commission, those of you who were passed over, those of you who were missed. And while I said I'm interested in those areas, I'm also interested in Queensland. There is one amongst you who has been subjected to something absolutely horrific at a young age. He was arrested and thrown into a juvenile institution for 8 months while they tried to make a charge against him stick. When the scientific evidence eventually proved that he could not have been involved in the crime for which they had held him, they let him out of that institution. That institution was called Westbrook. Anybody in Queensland through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, probably the 90s, juvenile justice system knows the name Westbrook. There were horrors committed at Westbrook, and this person has had a number of those horrors committed against him. Now, what justice is there for somebody who was unjustly charged with a crime and then held without bail in a juvenile detention facility? First offense, no other charges, no other dealings with police, no nothing. And actually, no evidence to support the charge for which they held him, where he was repeatedly sexually abused by members of staff of that institution, and potentially, I'm not sure, but potentially other inmates of that institution. He was exposed to the true horrors of Westbrook, all because he was inside being held while they tried to make a charge stick against him. And when the science proved it wasn't him, he couldn't have done it, he had to be let free, the damage had been done. And there is damage. Anybody who would suffer that sort of abuse for 8 months is bound to have damage. They are bound to need love, they are bound to need support, and unfortunately, the Queensland government, and I suspect South Australia, ACT, Victoria, New South Wales, Western Australia, the Northern Territory, and Tasmania have all failed in their duty of care to many people who are inside our judicial systems. I'd like to make them pay. I don't know that there is a way to make them pay significantly enough for the damage that they've done to so many people. But I sincerely hope we can get to that point. And the more people that know the horror stories, the easier it will be, should we ever gain leverage to get these people to a trial or make them accountable in any way. These stories will be important. These truths will be important. So I offer that for your consideration. Of course, there is and will always be a confidentiality clause. If there are certain elements of your story that you wish to remain confidential, you don't wish to make public in any way, shape or form, but they are part of your story and you need to tell it, well, we'll deal with that when we cross the bridge, but certainly we're not adverse to that. It is also important to note that what you say is likely, in all likelihood, to be investigated. And if it is being investigated, we would prefer that it's obviously, the truth is what we're starting out with. So please don't come to us with fantasy stories because they will be discovered fairly early on. And it just would be a sad indictment of the kind of people that are existing in today's world should we get a flood of people claiming to be SRA victims, or SRA survivors, I should say, when in fact they don't know the first thing about it. And when first put through the ringer of trying to prove that they were part of it all, I think that Q&A session alone might give them PTSD. So think twice before you stick your hand up for this if you really have not been part or subjected to it, because I suspect, I don't really know, everybody's different, but I suspect, given the few people that I have spoken to already, everybody deals with their trauma in a different way. And I can tell you there are some very interesting ways it's being dealt with. And I don't for 1 second believe I've seen all of them yet. So your secret's safe with me. And if you're happy for me to share your secret, then we will hopefully turn that into a learning aid that will help others in the future. At least that is my 100% goal from what we're trying to do here. Please email me, survivor@vofhq.com, if you have a story you'd like to tell. I'll be back in a moment to talk with Michael.
Hi, are you passionate about supporting independent media and social events? Voice of Freedom is dedicated to bringing you the latest happenings and things that matter. But we can't do it without your help. By donating, sponsoring, or becoming a member, you're not just supporting our mission. You're joining a community that values transparency and engagement. Your contributions allow us to continue producing high-quality content that informs and inspires. Visit vofhq.com to make a donation or explore sponsorship or membership opportunities. You can even donate using crypto. Together, we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard as we continue to create a vibrant platform for social change. Go to vofhq.com, help us to help you by joining us and making a difference today.
Well, as always, it's a great pleasure to talk silver and gold. If you don't have silver or gold in your kick, I advise you grab as much of it as you can afford. And there are great reasons for doing it, because your own personal wealth can increase much, much more significantly with precious metals in your kick, rather than letting the government or some superannuation mob try and control your wealth. To that reason, or to that end, we get together with Ainslie Bullion on a regular basis to talk about what's happening in the gold and silver markets. And joining us again tonight is the CEO from Ainslie Bullion, Michael Engeman. Hello, Michael. You look like you've raised a sweat this week. I've seen the price go up. I've seen the prices go down. I've seen the prices go up. I've seen them go down. It's been a busy week.
Oh, isn't it what, Carl? Yeah, thank you for your welcome, as always. Good to be here. But yeah, what a ride. We always said that commodities and metals are a ride, and we're in one now.
Volatility is a word that gets used in markets a lot. Is volatility a word that gets used in the gold and silver market? And would it be apt to describe the last week or two as volatile?
Yeah, I think it's it's a great word to use, and I think it's accurate for the last week or so. I think it's even more accurate when our Donald Trump is the president of the US and tries to do some of the things that he's doing. Because let's be fair, go back when he announced the tariffs with China. You have a look at the markets and the volatility that we had right then at that point, and now that's all come undone, and they've come to a truce. And look at the volatility that it's caused now. So, I think it's absolutely a great word to use to sum up what's happening in the markets in general.
Last night, I was looking at the spot price for silver. It was $49, I want to say 64 or something like that. And I did suggest to folks, buy now. Go to Ainslie Bullion, buy now, because it's going to go up, and I reckon it'll go up $2 overnight. For the first time in my life, I've been right. I wake up today, have a bit of a look. It's at 51 and a bit, and on the climb. What has happened in this last week to make silver dive and then now pick up again?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of things, Carl. I think there's always an overreaction when big news events come out. So I think, as I said to you, when the tariffs were first announced, if you go back then and have a look at the volatility that it caused, it was there, and it's just now as well. So, but if you go back this week in particular, go back a couple of days ago, with all those tariffs and with the way that we were heading as a country, our dollar was going up. So that was definitely forcing our price down, because obviously when the Aussie dollar against the US dollar goes up, we get closer to parity when it comes to the gold and silver prices. Sure. And in particular, we've had a little bit of that happen this week as well. And but even since yesterday, our dollar's gone down. So that's contributed to some of that increase in gold and silver price AUD. But I think it's also that, just what I said at the start, the overreaction. There was a bit of a overreaction, and then it settles, and it's probably gone back to where it was always going to sit anyway, I think, for this period. I mean, we've been talking for a long time that $51 silver AUD is kind of the new base. I don't know. I don't have a silver ball, but whether it's going to, continually go south of that or not, one would argue that might be just the base, and it just sits here now until it catapults to could be hundreds of dollars, or could be a lot more than what it is now. We don't know. It's not financial advice. It's just trying to understand what's happening in this market. But a lot of it is to do with China, a lot of it is to do with America, a lot of it is to do with, well, where does our dollar sit in all of that as well?
Right. The market can be very confusing to look at, and if I delve back to my education in economics, I'm reaching back to year 11 economics, where I got 18 for the exam that I sat. Supply and demand were two of the big words that were used in that course a lot. Now, I watched a very interesting piece that Chris Tipper put out yesterday or the day before about supply and demand and the silver ratios. Now, at the moment, if people took in our advice at the start of this year and bought silver particularly, they're 11.5% up on their buy. Your silver has grown by 11.5% or over 11.5% since January. Now, he also refers to some other influencing factors. particularly the demand for silver, and that there is a 117 million troy ounce deficit between what can be supplied and what is demanded. Now, ordinarily, and I admit I only got 18 in that economics, exam, but to me, that is demand is outstripping supply.
Yeah.
Therefore, the price should be going up, really up. Why is it, and is it now becoming clearer how this price is being suppressed?
Oh, no clearer. I think that's a short, sharp answer. There's no more clarity around why and how. I think we've all got our views, and we've discussed them in the past in what we think's going on. But the supply and demand is absolutely key to all of this, and it's always key to it. You can't hold it back for too long before you have that explosion, I believe. Yes, we're multiples of years, some arguably 3-4 years in the deficit when it comes to silver. Some people are saying we'll never be able to mine the amount of silver again that we need. That will be interesting, because as we know, what happens with mining around the world is that once a price is set and once we get to a certain level, i.e. where gold is now in this country, arguably, that mines just start popping up left, right and centre, which they are in Australia, because the price of gold is at a price where it's way above cost. And miners are sitting on a lot of cash because everything they pull out of the ground is very cash positive to them. Silver's a bit different. It's obviously a very costly exercise in mining silver, because you've got to mine so much more, because it's obviously price compared to gold is so much less. I think the ratio is somewhere around 99 at the moment. It was about 102, 103 last time we spoke. So there is a few factors that go into it, but yeah, look, silver is just used in so many different ways. It's so much more usable. All the things that we're buying and using as individuals these days, electronic wise, all contain silver. So it's a very good use case. It's a very good industrial, product. Who knows where that's going to lead in the future if that suppression keeps going. Arguably we don't see that, but we're on the belief, and a lot of macro commentators around the world are on the belief that this will see at some stage. And you look at the charts that we've started to present in that Ainslie research, which Chris is a part of and other members of our team are a part of. There's some interesting information in there, charts that go back hundreds of years, decades, etc., that are all leading to the same point.
How important is that historical knowledge in your day-to-day job today?
Oh, I think it's super important, Carl. I think that we've always said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And I think you have to look at it from the point of view of, are we able to predict when something is going to happen in the future? Well, no one sits there and says, oh, this will happen on this date. We know plenty of Nostradamuses that have come out and said the world's going to end, or that something's going to hit the earth and blow us up, and those dates come and they passed. So I think it's incredibly hard for us to pick what's going to happen, but I think what we do by looking at history and understanding the history books is that there's a trend that happens, and these things happen in history before a preceding event, or these are the things that have caused this thing to happen, and that often rhymes. And I think that's why you're getting a lot of people around the world, including ourselves, that are saying there's a lot of those preceding events are starting to occur. A lot of those things are leading us to the potential event happening, whatever that event is. We don't know, but that's what history is enabling us to do.
Is there potential for people to? I'm shifting gear here a little bit, I guess. There has been a lot of warnings sent out over, our channels in the last few weeks about, great financial upheavals, and we are seeing in our banking system a lot of interesting changes since the election. Commonwealth Bank now is refusing to give people their money without them answering a questionnaire about where they're getting it all. Can and I'm just hypothesizing here, if I had a reasonable amount of money in my super and it was coming due, and I was thinking about putting it into a bank to hang on to, or Ainslie Bullion, would it be better to transfer at least a significant portion of that cash into gold and silver? Because last time I went and got something from you guys, you didn't ask me where I got the money from to buy it, or what I'm going to do with it, or where I plan on stashing it, or anything else. You are as a bullion dealer, you're appearing now to be a much less intrusive option than a bank.
Yeah, there's look, it's a really good question. I'm probably, look, I don't know. I think there's elements of what's happening with the banks at the moment that you could probably understand if you wore the shareholders and or the CEO, the people that are running the board, if you wore their hats, you could probably understand why they're acting the way they are. Because at the end of the day, they're after profit for their shareholders. And I would argue that there's a lot of people that are out there, even probably listening to us when this goes live, Carl, that it's about super funds are investing in banks, and we all have super. So we're all in that space. A lot of people are anyway. And what are banks doing? They're trying to maximize the profit for their individual shareholders. How do they do that? Well, they look at how do they reduce cost and increase their revenue. Well, reducing cost is getting rid of cash, because I don't know, Blind Freddy could tell you that over the last 20 years, the costs of doing anything has gone exponentially up. So managing that cash, collecting that cash, counting that cash, sorting that cash, sending it back out to all the branches, sending it out to all the shops that use it, would be exponentially more costly than having little machines sitting on the desk that, you know, you just swipe your card or your phone on, and they collect 1%, 2%, 3%, you know, for every transaction. So from a bank point of view, I can see why they would do it. I don't agree with it. I'm not saying that I agree with it. And I'm absolutely pro cash, and I support everyone getting as much cash out all the time and using that as much as you possibly can. Who wants to pay the surcharges? I definitely don't. But I can definitely see why they're going down that path that they're going down. And then you throw on the crypto piece. Go on the piece about that crypto is a peer-to-peer transaction without an intermediary in between. That means I can send you cash, Carl, or not cash, but I can send you value straight from me to you without anyone in between and without any bank or anything in between. Well, that's a real fear. If I'm a CEO of a bank, I'm looking at that going, that's our model. That's what we've been doing for the last X amount of hundreds of years. Crypto's coming in and potentially taking that space. So of course they're going to defend their patch, and of course they're going to do what they can to keep it out, or until they can control it is the key. And when they get control and they have the agreements with governments around the world that they are the ones that are able to manage it, then I think you'll see a different turn. But for now, I'm not surprised with the behaviour that we see. Absolutely not.
I would think it's a great marketing strategy for Ainslie Bullion to go out and approach anybody who doesn't feel too comfortable about having to ask the questions that the bank want you to answer. Where did you make your wealth? Where do you plan on spending it? Why are you giving it to this person? Who are these third-party people that you're paying? If you don't want to answer any of those questions, it's pretty simple. You can simply trade gold and bullion instead.
Yeah, we've still got, I'll just add those, like just from a compliance regulation point of view for our business, we're no different to any other business. We've got to be very mindful, though, of who we're serving. And I think everyone has seen, you know, the media around some, you know, of the dodgy characters that are caught up in our space. There's even just been this week some news around some other people getting caught up in the bullion. So we have to keep our noses very clean, and we have to be sure that we're serving the right people and making sure that we're not soliciting you know, corruption, criminals, drug lords, etc. So when it comes to you know, buying off Ainslie, we've just got to do our due diligence and make sure that we are serving the right people. So it's not like we don't ask questions, we still do, But I agree, we've always promoted that you cannot live outside the system. You need to live in conjunction with the system, but having a lot of your assets tied up in precious metals and or crypto enables you to do that. So yeah, we always support that.
Yep. Just on crypto, we're going to get a chat with Chris Tipper or somebody else from your crypto team happening in the near future. Crypto at the moment, well, volatile is probably a word that could be used in the crypto markets as well, except you guys see the patterns, like Bitcoin, for instance. I think we're just on the uptake again now. We've been in that lull.
Yeah,
we're going back to...
I think it's about 104,000 US at the moment.
Yeah, right. So it's on the climb. Your team are obviously well placed to help people in that sphere, and you have the ability to trade in crypto too.
Yep, absolutely. The business here is fully set up over the counter. We're, we are not a business that is, non-staffed. We've got real people here that you can talk to, that you can meet with. If you go to the Ainslie Crypto website, ainsleycrypto.com.au, you can book yourself a online, webinar of sort type meeting with one of the guys and ask the basic of basic questions or the most advanced question that you like. And absolutely, then if that goes through to that you purchasing product, well, that can happen as well. So the Ainslie Crypto business is definitely, it's been with us for a long time. It's a strength of ours. And there's obviously always that living outside the system and having assets tied up in bullion and crypto. Well, the crypto to bullion swaps is a key thing, or the bullion to crypto swaps. You can do that without, entering into the banks and so forth as well. So
Yep, for sure.
I will just throw out there, Carl, on that, the Ainslie Research and Chris Tipper and the team here that do a wonderful job every week for us. They release a lot of information every week, and more information and more research articles every day, videos every day. The latest one that some of your listeners might not be aware of, but it's been running now for about 3 weeks, is the one that we launched Monday morning. And I just encourage everyone to have a look at it if you haven't seen it, and go to the Ainslie Research page, and it's the Precious Metals Update. And the Precious Metals Update that we launch every week now, every Monday, is a short, sharp. Chris is doing it at the moment. There might be others that jump on because it's pretty straightforward. It's just giving listeners literally a snapshot of what's going on in the market purely for precious metals. But yeah, I'd encourage people to jump on. If you haven't listened to one of those, definitely jump on and have a listen, because it's worthwhile.
I'm just going to show people how they can find that. That's the Precious Metals Update. All you do is at the top, click on the News and Resources tab and scroll your way down, and then you'll find the Precious Metals Update there. And it will bring it all together. And I've got to say, I enjoy Chris's reports immensely. He presents the information in a very easy to understand, for me at least, manner. There's no in-depth stuff that he's not talking about stuff I don't understand. I find the way he delivers and the information that he delivers to be extremely beneficial. So I would highly recommend people go and check out the News and Resources division of Ainslie Bullion. Chris isn't the only bloke in there. There's many others. I don't want to single him out, but yeah, I'm very impressed with what he does.
Yeah, and I think on that, we're trying to get him on the show with you. So that'll be hopefully more of a regular thing, that you can start to interview him on maybe it's a monthly basis or whatever it is, but he's keen to do that. So we've just got to get it happening.
Yeah,
and that just, look, he's, as you said, he is one of many. It's not like it all hinges on Chris. He's our face, and he's had a lot of practice like you have. The dulsonic tones that you've now got, and the ability to be able to do what you do is because you've practiced a lot doing it. It's like anything, right? Yes. He is in that position now because he gets a lot of that. A lot of our other staff are really keen to do it and do a great job behind the camera, writing those articles, delivering that news. So there's a lot of passionate people at Ainslie that are trying to help all of our customers and all of your listeners, do the right thing. So.
And for the people who are watching this and saying, oh, look, it's all pie in the sky stuff to me. I was in that position a couple of years ago. Gold and silver was something that other people did. Only the rich people had the ability to play around with gold and silver. Well, I can tell you that is not the case. So you probably can't see it, but I've got one here right beside me. Anybody can get involved, and you don't have to have huge amounts of money up front. The Ainslie Saver idea that you guys have now got running is a perfect way, if you're on a limited income, to be able to get in and buy proportionately pieces of precious metal as you build your wealth. And Ainslie Saver is, I think, one of the leading ways to be able to buy precious metals in the country at the moment, fractionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, it's the same thing we say all the time. It's don't get into precious metals if you just want to get in for a short term. It's not the physical precious metals is not something that you buy one week and sell the next. It's not something that we encourage that, although everyone is free to do what they like. That's the beauty of this, but it's about living outside the system and building your wealth that can't be taken off you for the future, and about buying precious metals and storing those precious metals and holding those precious metals for the future at some stage, whether that's to hand down to your children or their children. I think that there's going to come, like we spoke about at the very start of this show, a time. That time is coming, and every day we get closer to it. Those that have started this journey and do just chip away at putting the $50 a month or $50 a week or whatever it is of precious metals away, well, that's compounding by nature over many, many years, will have a huge return, way more than you can get out of any bank account savings policy anyway. So
Sure. And very quickly, because I know you are busy, I just wanted to bring up an event that's coming up in June. I mean, we'll talk more about this as it gets closer, but coming up Friday, the 13th of June, you and one of the team, I think Mary Jane's coming down from Freedom FFS as well.
Yeah, Chris will be there as well.
Yeah, Chris will be there. Great.
Yeah, a couple of girls out of the office, here in the office, Caroline and Katrina. Katrina's just recently moved up from, well, not recently, in the last 4 months. She's been working with us for a long time in Melbourne. She's now working out of the Brisbane office. So both of those girls go on as well. So
she didn't ring me and tell me she'd moved closer to me. I'm very upset.
Maybe she's leaving it for a surprise for the Jimboomba night.
Yeah. Well, excellent. It'll be great to see you. So that's Jimboomba happening at the meeting room at the Jimboomba Library, which is in Honora. Is that how you say it? Honora Street in Jimboomba. On the 13th of June. I'm coming along to that one as well. So look forward to seeing everybody in Jimboomba for that. Thank you very much for your time today. I know you're a busy man, Michael, so getting you on a Friday is always hard. Appreciate it. Look forward to chatting again maybe next week, or we'll get Chris or somebody else in to have a chat.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks, Carl. Talk to you soon.
So just want to thank Michael for his time. And just in case you were wondering how this Geiger counter that I mentioned earlier works, I did take a little video of it, so I thought I'd show you. Now, I'm particularly interested in learning what those numbers actually represent. And the Geiger counter at the time where I filmed this was actually sitting right beside my monitor on my laptop. So it's probably picking up the radiation that's coming off that. At any rate, I'm surrounded by monitors, so there's probably half a chance I'm going to get completely covered in crap. Yeah. Anyway, so if you know how to make one of those work or how to help me read it, carl@vofhq.com, I would really appreciate that. And thank you to Michael for his little chat. Of course, we chatted earlier today, and I can tell you that right now, silver is spotting at $50.17. Gold is sitting just under 5,000 5,000 Australian per ounce, 4,986.79, and on the up. Silver is on the up, and the gold-silver ratio is sitting at 99.3 and on the way down. So have a look at that. And as for the crypto side of things, yes, we will be catching up with Chris Tipper from Ainslie Bullion and hit the crypto team from there to find out a little bit more from their point of view, what's happening in the crypto world. Always useful. All right. How long have we been going? I've got another few minutes yet, so I'll, let's throw out a couple of interesting things that I've discovered today. I guess the first one is, who's this? Who is this person? I mean, I don't know who that bloke is, but seriously, have another closer look. Any idea who that bloke might be? I'll tell you who that bloke might be. That's P. Diddy's mother. Yeah, I shit you not. Is somebody having a land of us? I'm not sure. Don't want to diss the woman, but wow. Justin Bieber has apparently broken his Diddy silence. Was he somehow molested, somehow, suffered horrors to Diddy in that time where he was 15 years old and Diddy took him away for 48 hours of sort of 15-year-old boy heaven? Well, he claims that he was not assaulted by Diddy in any way, but he does believe all the victims that were should be fighting for justice, or words to that effect. He just wants to focus on his family. He's got a young child now. I don't know. Take from that what you will. I think it's all a bit weird. Something else that struck me as a little strange, and it wasn't only me that it struck as strange. We were very excited to see Donald Trump in the Middle East. I think right now he's been to Syria most recently. I think he's in Qatar at the moment. He was in Saudi Arabia for a couple of days. They had the Saudi Investor Forum there, I think it was called. And he put a speech there together that shocked the world, emboldened markets, and horrified Israel, particularly the Zionists that control them. Benjamin Netanyahu would be buzzing around like a really pissed off wasp at the moment. And that would be calmed down to compared to what he was a few days ago when Trump delivered this speech. That speech was groundbreaking in Middle Eastern terms when it comes to where America's support lay and what they were prepared to do by way of support of nations going forward. And it doesn't look like they're prepared to involve themselves in their politics in any way, shape, or form. In fact, Trump touted in his speech that the Saudis led by example. And I must admit that the current leader, who I think is the Crown Prince, hasn't been made king yet, but the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Al Salman, is a nice bloke. Now, he's 183 centimeters, not meters, or 1.83 meters high. That makes him about 6 foot, right? About 6 foot. Donald Trump, it says, when you go look up how tall Donald Trump is, he's 6'3". And you can go and have a look at any number of different quotes about how tall Donald Trump is, but 6'3" seems to be it. This is the photo that was taken with the Crown Prince and Donald Trump at the Saudi Investment Forum. Now, this has elicited a number of comments around the world that the fake Donald Trump is in fact the one trekking around the world at the moment. And there has been a lot of chat from entities that would probably have a better idea than you or I that this is in fact true. And in fact, one of those people is suggesting that Donald Trump has not been, the real Donald Trump has not been seen in public for many, many years. They never put him in public. He's only ever seen at private events that are held usually at Mar-a-Lago, because that is a 100% controllable environment. Now, this sounds like a horrendous existence for Donald Trump, if the real Donald Trump, if it is in fact true, because that would indicate to me that at least for the last 8 years, he has been locked away and unable to be seen in public because of the very, very severe threats to his life. Now, you may recall the shooting. They nearly got him, clipped his ear. There are a number of credible sources that claimed during the first presidency, the first term that he had, in the first year, there are 87 attempts, including air-to-air missiles, ground-to-air missiles, food poisoning, a whole variety of different ways they tried to assassinate him. Now, we only heard about, well, we didn't hear about any, I don't think, in the first term, and the very public shooting in the run-up to his second term was I guess, the only public one we've been made aware of. But these sources claim that Donald Trump has had pretty much an attempt made on him, if not every day, every other day, in some way, shape, or form. Now, some of them might be just, mental health cases who are trying to make a name for themselves, but others have been very credible. So I found that rather interesting that there seems to be a bloke who is less than 6 foot tall impersonating Donald Trump at the moment, because that bloke from Saudi Arabia is 6 foot and Donald Trump's meant to be taller than him. Just thought it was a bit weird, that's all. I got another one. Who is that for you? Who is that? Now, this is a huge star from the 70s, the 80s, and I guess the 90s. He was known for stage and screen, predominantly a stage show that was turned into a screen show called the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That is Tim Curry. Now, Tim is 79 years of age these days and has obviously had his health troubles. He had a stroke some time ago. What I would notice is that on the day out that he decided to have in his wheelchair with his minder, he's decided to wear his red shoes. Is this a sign? Tim Curry, of course, played Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show and did it very well, I must admit. There are a number of stories about the cast and crew of the original Rocky Horror Picture Show film, and particularly some of the goings on while filming. Tim Curry really took on the persona. He was known as a method actor, I think, at the time, so he really took on the Frankenfurter persona. And Meatloaf, who was also in the movie, starred as Eddie, the biker that they ate in their cannibalized ritual. Everybody, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Have you watched it? I resisted watching it for I don't know how many years, and then one summer, a bunch of friends sat down and watched it, and I got into it for the music, I guess, and then the story, and I don't know how many. I've watched the thing over 100 times. I've been to so many different stage show productions of it. I've lost count. I've been lucky enough to interview the Australian stars who've been putting the show on as they toured Australia, including back in the, 80s or 90s version of it, Ken James, Victoria Nichols, and Russell Morris, who played Riff Raff in a version of it. Had the whole cast in the studio at one stage. I could tell you a very funny story about Russell Morris, but it may embarrass him, and I won't do that. However, there was no Frankenfurter like Tim Curry, and not a well man at the moment. But the whole Rocky Horror Picture Show thing has a bit of a curse to it, and I'm sure if you were to ask Craig McLachlan, he'd probably agree. Who is this turd? Because I certainly don't think it's Albo Sleazy. Now, you go back and have a look at his Communist Party photos, his early days, any other profile type shot, you will find that Anthony Albanese doesn't have an ear that looks like that. Things that make you go, don't you think? Here's another one that'll make you go, especially if you're in Sydney. They're going to put 70 drones in the air to track Sydney motorists. Now, I don't know that they're planning on tracking you exactly. It'll be more tracking traffic. However, if you happen to be the one scything through the traffic in your car or on your motorbike, and it looks like you're doing excessive speed, then my guess is whoever's monitoring those drones will be able to direct a enforcement agency of choice to your location with great haste. If you think that we are not being controlled, folks, and that we are free to go and do as we will without interruption, fear, or surveillance, you are exceptionally wrong. So it's coming, and it's coming everywhere. Not just Sydney. This will be the trial. But I guess the only good thing about all of that is that the drones will have to be under 400 feet. And that will mean that certainly for freeways, they're going to need to be flying over the median and all that kind of thing. This is an idea I actually put to people some years ago. When I got right into drones, we were looking at all sorts of practical applications for drone usage. Monitoring traffic was one of them. We're also looking at how to disperse fog and being able to fly a fixed-wing drone essentially up the median strip of major freeways and roads and defog those areas so that the huge traffic hassles and accidents and all that sort of thing happens. And certainly the technology is available to do that. Do you know where it was developed? Dubai. But there is a fair bit of money involved. And of course, I wasn't sharing it with the Freemasons. And I was unaware at the time that everybody that you talk to in the government, or at the time I was looking for angel investors to help fund one drone so we could prove the concept. And wow, yeah, you've got to be in the boys club if you're looking for any of that kind of money. But certainly got the plans for it if you're interested, and we might be able to help out. Defog airports was the other one. We wanted to make sure that airports could stay clear of fog so that takeoffs, landings, and all that sort of stuff didn't need to be interrupted, or it would be at a very minimal interruption. So, but all that is just food for thought. Things I used to do in a past life. There you go. Let's hope we're not reaching the next life any sooner, and your weekend is a bloody great one. I'm going off to go and dig out my father's welder. That shouldn't sound too spectacular, but the welder must be 60 years old. It may be a little more. And I'm going to plug it in, turn it on, and see what happens. We have need of something to be welded. And I'm going to take up my Year 8 welding qualifications on a stick to the max. So be prepared, folks. Not all dickheads are on the road this weekend. One of them is just going down to his mother's place to pick up a welder and bring it back here and possibly electrocute himself. Enjoy your weekend.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!